The blessedness of home, we only talked about the men and good. Men lead the way. The harmony in the home is up to the man. Success of the home is up to the man. Needs everybody, but the men lead the way. The starting point for any marriage and home is one flesh, not roles. One flesh. That's everything. You do it together, you decide together, you work together. Every home will look a little differently. But then we go into the roles. But the home is not built up on roles. It starts with one flesh, Christ in the center, a man and a woman, if you will, equally. Now, we have roles. And for the men, it is he wears the higher accountability in leadership. 2, he follows them. He follows himself, then helps and oversees others to follow with spiritual leadership. Number 3, he loves and nourishes his wife. Number 4, he is the moral voice of authority in the home. The wife, number 1, she lives in submission to the husband. She is the leading example of that role. While there's a role of leadership in church in the Bible, he says, let her be submissive to her own husband. It's good that you don't have to be submissive to every man walking around, because homes are quite differently. And once in a while we would do things, we were talking about things of liberties, and once in a while, I'll bring one thing up that we did, is I allowed dancing. I have no problem with dancing. Like movies, there's good movies, bad movies. Like books, there's good and bad books. Dancing, there's good, and April likes to dance, and I loathe the creature, but my wife likes it, I like it. If my wife likes it, and we did some line dancing. I was learning how. I would do some ballroom dancing. If we find a dancing class, we're gonna do it. But my girls would dance for like exercise videos. And I said to them, if ever someone happens to see you dancing, and they say you shouldn't be dancing, you say you need to talk to my father. That's what you tell them. You need to talk to my father because he lets me do it. If ever that comes across, don't talk to other people with unique things that are fine and you do it differently. We do what we do. It is defendable. I can defend it in there. And so here's a husband in that home, this is silly, but should April follow him or should she follow me in there? With the spiritual leadership in the church, another topic, it's primarily the pastors and elders is the big thing, But anyway, she's to live in submission to her own husband. This is featured in the Bible. We are not to skirt this. We're not to get around this. That's the modern norm that's decimating the nuclear family. The biblical principles for she is to be submissive to her own husband. She, in point 1, she is the leading role. She is the leading example of that role. Before it says in Ephesians, wives be submissive to your husband, it says be submissive one to another. Everybody submits. There's a role of a pastor to submit, certainly to the board and to the congregation. Certainly there, but it's Abby's birthday. And maybe I'm thinking of something for Abby and doing something for Abby and something that's maybe I don't care about, but it's good for her or she likes it. And there's all these times where we come out of our little things the way we like it and do it the way someone else needs it, my wife needs it, or whatever it is. So there's submitting that goes on, but the wife has that role of submitting. Please, 1 Corinthians 11, imitate me just as I also imitate Christ. 1 Corinthians 11:1. One of the easiest verses to remember the reference because it's 1 Corinthians 1:1, verse 1. 1 Corinthians 11, verse 1. Imitate me as I also imitate Christ. Now I praise you, brethren, that you remember me in all things and keep the traditions just as I delivered them to you. You note that a little bit. Later on in 16, we won't cover it, but it talks about customs. But I want you to know that the head of every man is Christ, and the head of the woman is man. As we talk about the role in church, but not today, as we talk about the role in homes, biblical role in homes, this doesn't change. There are things of custom, head coverings comes up, that change or don't change. There's all kinds of things of customs, the way we do it, but they did not do head coverings because because it was a law, because we don't have that law. That law is not given. He just recommends you keep that up. He's not against it because it has a good picture. So whatever we might do custom or not do custom-wise, things change after hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and thousands of years. This is now principle. This ain't custom. This is principle. The head of every man is Christ. The head of the woman is the man if she's married. And the head of Christ is God. With submission, you're moving in the role of Christ. And you're also moving in another direction that we're going to talk about in a little bit. Every man praying and prophesying, having his head covered, dishonors his head in their culture at that time. We don't have this today. But every woman who prays or prophesies with her head uncovered dishonors her head, the man. For that is is one and the same as her head being shaved. For if a woman is not covered with a material head covering, let her also be shorn. He's not suggesting this, but you might as well just disgrace her and cut off all her hair. But if it is shameful for a woman to be shorn or shaved, let her be covered. Don't take that away. Now, see how these change? See how it changes? Today, the man wears a yarmulke. You know, he wears for different reasons. Things change. Now we have men not wearing a covering here, but women do. And today, the faithful Jewish person, the man wears a yarmulke, a covering, and there. So why? I don't know. I've never found that out. But customs come and customs go. But there's still a principle. For a man indeed ought to not cover his head with, back in first century, since he is the image of the glory of God. And he wants it to be shown symbolically that there's nothing over him but Christ. But a woman does have, before Christ, she's bound to Christ, she also has an authority that she's going to need to recognize, and that is with her husband. Nor was man created for the woman, but woman was created as helpmeet for the man. We're going to read that in a minute. For this reason, the woman ought to have a symbol of authority on her head because of the angels. Nevertheless, neither the man is independent of women, nor the woman independent of man in the Lord. For as the woman came from man, rib, even so a man comes through the woman womb. So he goes, this ain't putting you over them. I'm a God of order. We need male leadership. By and large, men are made better to lead. One of our downfall is women that don't know how to lead. We need women that know how to lead, because if that role's taken over, we need to change that. Women need to learn how to lead because they have families and other women and ministries in that. And they need to know, everyone needs to know how to lead, and everyone needs to know how to follow, and everyone needs to learn how to submit. We need to submit. For as a woman came from man, even so man comes from women. We're born from women. So all things are God's. Verse 16, and the general, verse 16, and what I read earlier, custom and habit, it seems that this was a custom, head coverings, that was alive. People do it today. They should do it. They're fine to do it. But it's not even a law from Paul. You remember at times Paul said, I'm not giving you this from Christ, 1 Corinthians 7. I'm saying with the current tribulation, everyone being persecuted, consider staying single. If you need to get married, get married. That's not a law from Christ. There were things of customs. It's changed. I don't reintroduce the custom. We could. I don't introduce it because we're not used to it. And now we're looking freaky. You know, I'm not saying if you wear a head covering that's freaky. I'm saying that as a church-wide, but we have a custom ourselves. I would say this, I would not take the name of your husband. We have a custom. A wife, someone gets married, they take the name of the husband, of the husband. April Cole, it was April Farmer. April Cole. I would keep that custom. I wouldn't change that custom. You're wrong if you change it. And I'm going to keep my last name, or I'm going to add his name. You do what you want to do. I say, take the name. It's a symbol of representing that the husband is the head of a home. Actually, Christ is through the husband. And I wouldn't change that. Do what you want, but I would keep that alive. It's not a law, nothing you have to do, but here we got a custom. And I always, when I talked to my nieces that kept their own names, one time we had a friendly discussion. I am not going to take the name of my husband. No, you're going to keep the name of your dad. You're not going to get away from a paternal history. The only names out there are from males. You know what I mean? I'm not going to be under a man. I'm going to be under a man. I'm going to have my man's. If you cannot have a friendly discussion, don't have it. Don't have it. And with the same girl, my daughters had really interesting discussions on this. One time I had my friend John Russo. I was best man at his wedding. And I would have had him stand up for mine, but I did other things. But best friend, I have a lifelong best friend in Jay McGowan, but best friend at the time of high school, John and I were bosom pals. And John got married, and I went on my trip. I'd write letters, and Phyllis would write back, his wife. Phyllis would write back. And I would send letters to them, including things Phyllis said. But John doesn't write letters, she writes letters. I got these letters from Phyllis all the time. Phyllis. She'd send them as I traveled, knowing my schedule. You could send general delivery mail. And so I get letters from Phyllis, I'd write letters back. And when I wrote letters back, I wrote to John and Phyllis Russo. And when I came down to see them on my way home, I went down there, we had a good time together, and Phyllis said, how come you write those letters to John and Phyllis Russo? And I wasn't even a Christian. I take that back. I was just a Christian at that time. What do you mean? Well, I write the letters. He doesn't write you. So you should say Phyllis and John. But John's my friend. I didn't say this, but I only know you because of John. You know, John's my friend. I'm a man. He's a man. He's my friend. You know, I'm the one that writes the letters. And I had this little brainstorm. I said, I got it, Phyllis. I'll solve this. True, you do write letters, but John's my friend. You're my friend too, but here's what I'll do. And I got a letter, and I got an envelope, and I wrote John Russo, and then over John I wrote Phyllis. And I said, I'll write them, and I'll put both your names over each other so it's all equal, you know. And she goes, well, that's silly. Yeah, it is silly. I'm going to keep putting John first. He's my friend. I'm not going to apologize for that. But you see, no, I got to be first. As you head down, you're always heading towards Christ because he submitted. He submitted. And you're heading towards something else. We'll get that in just a minute. They had a custom. Don't change the custom. We don't have a custom. It's beautiful when wives pick up head coverings. But I'm not going to make that for the church. I think it's not good for the church. That needs to be an individual choice. So we arrange ourselves under. Here's the other one you move towards. Anytime I submit, I'm submitting all the time. I am here because I submit. I am a chaplain because I submit. It is one long line of submission. I realized this as I talked to another pastor one time at Grace Baptist. He's now at St. John's First Baptist, Brandon Crawford. We were talking about this, and he says, everything is by submission. We submitted to Moody Bible Institute. I paid the fees I needed to do. I did the work requirements I had to do. And that I had the testimony that allowed me to go in. And everything I have done in life, it's a series of here's what we need. Can you be this for us? Yes, I can. If no, I can't, then I wouldn't go there. There's all kinds of churches I would never pastor because I can't go where they go. But here, I'm there, and so submit. Everybody submits. When you submit, you're moving towards Christ who submitted. You're also moving towards man. Because men, have you ever been emptied of all? If you've never been emptied of all where you're totally destitute about something that just happened to you, then you haven't lived long enough. It's coming. It's coming. Many stories I could tell you. I wasn't planning a long one, but I'll just say Ashley right now, 3 nights, 0 hours sleep. I know what that does, that I didn't have it that bad. It turns you into like an animal. You can't think straight. You can hardly drive. You're not making good decisions. You're loopy. And so when I go to bed at night, almost every night, I pray for Matt Crawford, Colin Lawson, myself, and Maddie. Because sometimes there's sleep problems. And it's hellish. unless you've had it. Everyone had fitful sleep, but when you can't sleep. Now, it's getting much better for many of these, and it'll get much better for Ashley. But I'm telling you, just that, when I started dealing with anxiety, it's under control. I got helps, lifestyle, all kinds of things help you. Way manageable, and it'll be manageable for her. She wonders if I'm going to be like this always. Is this it? I won't be able to raise my daughters. You know, all this stuff's going on in her head. And here's the thing. When you go towards the bottom, when you submit and get under, you're moving towards Christ. You're also moving towards men. If you get down to where you're emptied out and you got nothing, nothing's working out. I've been times where maybe it was one thing, but something was taken from me, and I can't do anything directly to get it back. It's just gone. And it broke my heart. At those times, what I do, every time I get there, and I glorify God. I say, not for this, but that you are king and you're my king, and I worship you. I will not curse God and die. Job's wife's suggestion. I give you glory for all things. I have been there in the middle of, I don't know where this is going. And partly it was where I could not sleep, and anxiousness that was ruining my life until I got some help. And when you submit, you're moving down to, there are people, if you keep moving down, you will meet a community of people, and all of us take time down there where they're emptied of everything. They've lost it all. My life stinks. I hate my life, and I can't do, and this is Christians, and I hate what's become of my life, and I don't like it, and they're emptied, and they're brokenhearted. Let us submit one another. When you ascend inappropriately, you ascend towards God wrongly. That you just step over lines. There's lines, and you step over a line as a wife. And you have a habit of stepping over lines as children, because you don't have to listen. I don't have to listen to you. I'm 16 now. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. That's terrible. And as we move and we ascend, we're moving up towards God, and we want to be equal to God. If we thought about it, we want to do what we want to do. We know what's right, at least for me, and I'm going to do what's right for me. And whatever the Bible says, I'm going to ignore that. And so with submission, every time we submit, we're moving towards Christ, and we're moving towards destitute men who are been thrown down. They've lost all authority because they have this malady, or they're bankrupt, or whatever. They're brokenhearted. Oh, submit. Freely submit. Absolutely submit. I often say, the Christian life, it's a race to the bottom. That was the big one I wanted to say. 2, she helps and supports her husband. Genesis 2:20. Genesis 2:20. So Adam gave names to all cattle, to the birds of the air, to every beast of the field. Why did he call it a wolverine? It's not a wolf. I don't know. Now, he didn't do that. That's English language. But sometimes, do you ever notice, what is it? Hedgehog, guinea pig. They're not swine. Hedgehog, guinea pig. There's some bad names for animals. I'm sure Adam did a great job. But for Adam, there was not found a helper comparable to him. And she was given as a helpmeet. Could you see this picture? I want to show you something with this picture. The story of Zipporah is coming up, but we already in Exodus 2, had the story of their meeting. There were 7 sisters. They went on down. Let me read this. Exodus 2, verse 16. Now the priest of Midian had 7 daughters. Jethro, who has a different name here, but it's the same man, had 7 daughters. One was Zipporah. And they came and drew water, and they filled the troughs to water their father's flocks. When would they get flocks? In that culture, never. They would never get flocks. Never, never, never would there be a farmer woman. It was always the fathers. If the father died, it would be her sons. It's just a patriarchal society. That's the way it was. So always his flocks. And then I get married, my husband's flocks. I'm always under men. Yeah, if you want to go with that, yeah. There is wrong. We talked about men. There is wrong patriarchal. with domineering men. And I really don't agree that there's male chauvinists nor prideful women's lib. It's just prideful people. Prideful people. I'm in charge. I'm a man. I'm in charge. I'm a woman. No one can tell. That pridefulness, So they are filling the troughs of the water for his father's flock. Then the shepherds came, drove them away. The flocks, the stock, the livestock, or the women. But Moses stood up and helped them. Who's he helping? What's going on? If you see the annual showing of 10 Commandments by Cecil B. DeMille, it was shepherds that were messing with the girls. And he came in, there was this big kung fu fight, and he helped them, and they could get their water, and the shepherds had to hike it. Well, that wasn't too bad, because we have in verse 18 of Exodus 2, and when they came to Ruel, who is Jethro, their father, he said, they always have extra names, "How is it that you have come so soon today?" Boy, that was fast. You're all done already. And they said, an Egyptian, that's Moses, he's still wearing the garb, delivered us from the hand of the shepherds, and he also drew enough water for us and watered the flock. We had this big, strong man's help, and he drew water for us. So they came to draw water for their flocks and for their father's flocks. Other times there was the woman at the well and Rebecca and Isaac. Where would you like me to, Isaac's servant, Abraham's servant? I will draw water for you and for all your camels. And they have all these camels loaded down with gifts for her father and for her. She had no idea. But these women that often served. Well, she's serving her father's flock, and then Moses served her. With submission, we all submit one to another, and there's times you serve your husband, and he's serving you. It goes both ways. So there they were. There were two women. I'll say them briefly. It was the same situation. One woman said, with a husband newer to Christ, she says, there's reasons she differed with me on some things about women. And she says, I need to be the spiritual leader of my home because my husband, Fred, will never be leader of the home. He's just never going to be because he's been longer in the Lord. So she was going to be leader of the home. She said that. And I said, well, Fred could come along. You could encourage Fred to come along. Another woman said to me, Pastor, would you, or is there a man in the Bible, a man in the church, to be a role model to my son? And her husband stood right there next to her, and he was newer to Christ. And I says, and she was very irregular. I didn't know what was going on in her life. I didn't see her for months and months. We're going to come here, but could someone be a role model to my son? Well, yes, but encourage your husband, And these two women had a view of their husbands that one's newer to Christ, one just doesn't get it. And they are ignoring, they're not building up their husbands. He's the role model. I mean, we can help, and I could be a role model, but encourage your husband to be that male role model. And you could tell they were not encouraging their husband. We need to help our husbands, lift up our husbands, and pray for the husband that's an unbeliever. And you treat him with respect and with submission to an unbeliever. And anything but wrong to be submissive to your husband, and you come in and sanctify the home and honor your unbelieving husband with service to him, respect for him, the position he holds, all this work you do for our family. I'm so happy in you. Build him up and let him learn to be that decision maker and leader that he needs to be. Help your husbands. Number 3, she nourishes all those of her home. For time, I'm going to say Proverbs 31. Okay? The virtuous woman. Here's the main thing, husbands. That virtuous woman will be praised. It says like 2 or 3 times in the gates, and you and her children will rise up and call her blessed. You honor. And here's the one submitting. You lift her up. I got that in a message. Maybe Lee Celine is in Chicago. Maybe on the radio. Someone gave that message loud and clear. And I got home, and my wife was over at my parents' house. And here she is. And Ashley was just little, 2-year-old, 3-year-old Ashley. But you could talk to her. Ashley, come here. We're going to do something for mom. And we were upstairs bathroom. And I put a little footstool, and I put her on there. And I got even lower, and we both applauded. Let's applaud your mother. Oh, there she is, you know. Why? Proverbs 31, the virtuous woman, this, that. Her family are not in want for winter because she makes all those wonderful clothes. So what you got to do is make clothes? No. But you take care of them. We're living in a modern age. But it says that she does take care of the poverty, the neighbors, others around. She takes care of her home and others people's homes. She's a blessing to people. She nourishes everyone in her home. If you had servants, in the 60s they all had servants. There's like what? Leave it to, no, not him. Hazel, the show Hazel. There's like 2 kids, 1 kid. And they still got a housemaid. And the wife doesn't work. And they got this house. If you do have a housemaid and she works for you or servants, you honor those servants. You lift up those servants. You help those servants. You serve those servants, even though you're in the role of maybe their boss. You also have service unto them. And that she nourished everyone that was in her home, and she was praised. The strength, I got to read this of Proverbs 31, 25, 26. Strength and honor are her clothing. 26, she opens her mouth with wisdom, and on her tongue is the law of kindness. Unfortunately, rigidly, in a good man, Bob Cole, I had law. Grace, that's finesse. Grace is finesse. And my dad has not an ounce or a quarter ounce of finesse. So he had trouble with grace. He wasn't a bad man. He was not a bad man. He's sometimes too angry. He had sins, but we know he loved us. He certainly worked for us, loved his wife, never heard him raise his voice to his wife, ever. A lot of good. But he represented the law, and if you wanted grace, you got to go to your mom. My mom, that's just it. So here was grace and here was law. Generally, is that not true? Generally, there will be a little bit more what you need, your work. The wife will do that too, but who's the one more understanding? Maybe too understanding. Oh, you're going too far. You're babying those boys or girls or whatever. And so there is a little bit maybe of law more with that and grace. But with that, we learn that also is law with the wife and wisdom and knowledge, and there's a grace that needs to be learned by the man. And so while there's a better equipped to do this and do that, we need to learn. Both of us need to learn those things, and so that's part of that one union. You're learning from each other and taking strengths and weaknesses. Parents, to the children, the husband and wife stand on equal ground. They never really sassed me or acted in that way. I don't have to, no, I never heard that. But April would, because she's nicer. And so when they were young, only when they were very, very young. And no, more than once, let me introduce you to your mother. Here she is. There is God, and then not the President of the United States, but your mother and your father. Now, I know you understand about your father, but your mother is God, mother, and father. You will not talk to your mother. This is not your big sister. This is not your little sister. This is not a babysitter, and you won't talk to any babysitter that way. This is not your teacher at school. You will not talk to a teacher at school. This is your mother. Now, I hope I didn't do that enough where they could quote it when I was doing it. This is your mother. Let me make formal introductions. But I remember doing that about 3 times with each of them. You will honor they did respect me. They would at times have challenges with respecting her because she was so sweet, and that's very, very wrong. Number 1, parents, mother, father, you teach your children in all things of God. In Deuteronomy 6, when you rise up, when you go out, when you go in, all the time you're talking about God. It's not preachy, it's not churchy all the time. A good lesson, son. There's a verse in the Bible, let me show you this. And you just know when to do it, and you're just always teaching them. Together, parents are the moral voice in the home. The moral voice of the home has the tenor of the man. They will hear their father, and in the tenor of the man's voice, there is God. So that is shared with the mother. I am not fully on board with wait till your father gets home. There is elements of that. The elements of that is, I don't know what to do about what we're going to do about this. I'm so mad. I'm going to wait till your father's home and we're going to talk about it. You do not have to commit sentences right away. When they do really bad, you will do this because you did that. You can wait on that. Sometimes they wait many weeks or months to sentence a criminal. So with our dear little lovely criminals, our children, you can wait till your father gets home. But once in a while with April, you have to be the voice of authority. Oh, regulate it to me. Whenever I'm there and they're having a problem with mom and I hear no to April. Never heard the word. I don't remember ever hearing the word. I'd be in my reading Dick Tracy or something in the comics. I know he's not there anymore, but he was still in the comics when I came to this church. I'm reading it. No! I don't know what's going on, but it's bad. And I would go over and do the king's business. Why did you tell no to you? Did I ever introduce you to my mother? Here's your mother. You are children. And I want to hear what happened. And they're like really sorry about it. Now I'm going to jump in on that. But then I'm gone. You mothers are, the moral voice of authority is in the tenor of the man, and that is in the speech of God. You're representing God, and don't always pass that off. Deal with that manner with the children. You might be better at teaching, but fathers need to teach. Don't regulate all authority to the man because he's good at it, and all the teaching to you because you're better at it. Both of you need to do both. The male, we're going to say that in a bit for parents, but the man has to teach. And she's better at it, okay, and she might lead in that. They did in the Bible. They would go off morning to night, and the husband was off with his 12-year-old sons and older doing the work while she taught the younger children. And the girls, when they got to be 12, 13, 14, they stayed in the home, and they learned from mother. Okay, so she's going to do a lot. But you dads, she's better at teaching, you got to learn to teach. He's better at authority, you got to learn to be authoritative, right? You really do. Or you're going to be like a little child to them. You're going to be like a sister. We have this in Proverbs. You are one. The voice of right and wrong is with both of you. In Proverbs 1, Verse 8, my son, hear the instruction of your father, and do not forsake the law of your mother. She's wise. In Proverbs 6, verse 20, my son, keep your father's command, and do not forsake the law of your mother. We both must teach the children in all things of God. A side note, I maybe said earlier, here, women need to learn to lead. You do need to learn. And I had that goal for my daughters. In my mind, I never said this till they were older. In my mind, I wanted two Timothys. They could take over a church, run a church, do anything. Now, they're not going to be in that role, but they are equipped to lead and help others. We need to teach. That's one of the weaknesses with submission to men, and you're good with that. You also need to learn to lead. And because you're going to lead a lot of things. And we have a lot of times women that don't know how to lead other women and other children. Number 2, we oversee respectful, godly living. That means we defend it. We defend it. There's consequences. Here's a good word of advice for you. You got this going on with Junior? Do something. Don't say something. Do something. That was the problem with Eli. Read the early parts of 1 Samuel. He would say, sons, why? How come you do what you do? But the Bible says God severely judged him. Why? Not because he was a man of a home. He probably won't do that to you. He could. But he was the high priest. He was the high priest. He says, why don't you do something? You did not restrain your children. And we knew his grossly sexual, even gross things they did, that he would leave them in that office of priest. He did not fire them and have them step back from their role. They're running, if it was a church, they're running their church, they're the youth pastor and worship guy, and they're sinful and wrong. He's not doing anything about it in there. We need to defend. We're the tenor of the voice of God. We need to defend that with consequences. Once in a while, we would babysit someone. When you babysit someone, what can you do for discipline? There's not much. Something happens, it's happened a few times. Something happens, we're watching someone's kids with our kids, something happens bad, and I said, that was wrong. And it was wrong enough to punish it. Sometimes it's just, that was rude, say you're sorry, we'll do that. But sometimes it was so bad, like, all right, Pat, I don't have many things I could do. We got dessert coming, you're not having dessert. That was really bad. So I'm gonna take you out of dessert and for whatever, the rest of the night or for an hour, you can't, no TV and no the games, you're not doing that. Sit them down, do whatever you're gonna do, but you can't, don't put them in the room and make them stay in there with all the toys, They had to be over in this boring part and get nothing done. And they said, I'm sorry for that, I know that. And so here's what we're gonna do. But I said, I'm sorry, I know that. And I appreciate that, and I forgive you. But here's what's going to happen. But I said, I'm sorry. But I said, I'm sorry. And they start backing up away from you. They're backing up away from you because you're authoritative. That's why they do that. But I said, they don't come towards you. They come towards you if you're going to kowtow. But when you say something, but I said, I'm sorry. I know. And here's what's going to happen because of that. And usually it was small infractions and nothing happened. But when something bad happened, no, you don't do that. You're done with that for the rest of the night. Put that away. So here's what I know at that point. Sometimes I communicate to the parent. They say they're sorry, you don't punish them. In your home, evidently, according to the child, they say they're sorry. That's their punishment. Say they're sorry. What you're doing is encouraging empty words. They don't mean it. They're saying they're sorry so they don't get punished. You don't say, there's little things. Say you're sorry to your sister. That was a little rude. But if it's bad, say you're sorry and punish them. There has to be consequences. And whatever we could say about things of consequences, but here we just want to say that it has to hurt. Whatever it does, it's got to be something right up there that they love. What? And when they're young enough, it's just that hour. They don't understand 3 days. They don't. But when they can understand 3 days, for the next 3 days, it has to be consequences so that it's a very unproductive career, disobeying that way. Number 2, they oversee respectful, godly living. They teach it and defend it. They teach it and defend it. I think I read that already. With that, though, the secret to obedient children is not discipline. It's teaching and your example. Those are the necessary ones. The tag on is consequences if they don't do it, of course. There's consequences. But something that you punish your children, and that's the secret to obedient children. And the two extremes is permissive parenting, which is the rube today, is ruining the day. But if you have a strict disciplinarian, a real strict disciplinarian, that's bad too. There's no teaching, there's no understanding. I say jump, you say how high, that kind of a thing. Why do you do it? Because I said so. That is also hurting us. And so those extremes. So with someone who models it and someone who defends it, there's going to be consequences at time. And it can get severe because the infraction was severe. They oversee respect. Number 3 is they're other-minded. No statement on this, it's just very important. Are you serving other people at work? Are you serving other people at school? Are you serving your teacher and blessing your teacher? Have you thanked your teacher recently? They all leave. One thing I got to talk to you about, Mrs. McGillicuddy. And if ever I make up a name of a teacher, it's always Mrs. McGillicuddy. I never had a Mrs. McGillicuddy, but it's what I do. Mrs. McGillicuddy, I want to thank you. You did a fine job today. Could you imagine you say that? You did a fine job today. That was great. About U.S. history, that was very important. That was great. Thank you for what you did. That doesn't make it home. You know what one of my students say? You know why they tell their husbands or their wives? Because no one ever says it. No one builds up the teacher. Build up your teacher. Serve other people. Be other-minded, other-minded, other-minded. If you're not other-minded, you are always thinking about yourself. Be sure. Your neighbors, do they know you? Are you reaching out to neighbors? Are you people everywhere? Reach out. The stranger you just meet, reach out, help them, be of any assistance. Children, honor and obey your parents in all things except sin. No, they can't ask you to do wrong. I'll give you a quick example of this picture, though. The way we do our modern pictures, if you looked at this closely, I think that's Jesus right there. One, because he's at the head, and two, because that's what Jesus looks like. He's a white man with a beard. I know that. This doesn't look like Jesus. This looks like, it's probably Jesus. But these men were following him. And with that, they're walking literally in his footsteps. Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. And so with that, you children should be following in your parents' footsteps. If you have an unbelieving parent, he's a good man or woman, they work hard, you should be learning from him. You should be learning from his good example. Hardly, I know there's examples of terrible fathers and mothers. I know that. But most of the time, there are some redeeming characteristics of their hard work for you, dedication, maybe honesty. And I know there's people that were raised, Abigail had her husband, and what a rube and a ninny, and I have a lot worse words for him. I know there's bad situations. But with that, you honor and follow your parents. I went to high school 70 to 74, Woodstock is 68. Hippie generation, do your own thing. 68, 69, I'm in 7th and 8th grade. I was right in the middle of it. And everyone, that generation gap, they never understand you. My father understood me, in a sense. And I understood my father, and I liked him. I happened to like him. And my mother. I very much appreciated my mother. She talked to me, explained things to me. She wasn't the teacher. But if I got anything of wisdom, it'd be from my mom. She'd say something. And why do people not get along with their parents? I always got along with my parents. My brothers and sisters, they all broke away real early and did their own thing. And I didn't understand that. That your parents don't understand you. Usually, now I'm from the generation, usually they wanted to do wrong, and the parents are going to tell them, don't do that. Don't take that drug, or don't be drinking, or don't be doing this. And they want to do what they want to do, and the misunderstanding is they want to stop it. Usually they're stopping wrong things, and you just don't want to hear it. So that whole thing that my parents don't understand me, you might have a problem there. You might. But for the most part, you should be honoring your mother and your father. Can I end with this? The second is grow in the grace and knowledge of the Lord Jesus Christ. Put up the picture. For the nuclear family, I just want to know what's wrong with this. I want to know what's wrong with everybody holding hands and praying and the father at the head of the table, and what's wrong with the nuclear family. There's nothing wrong with the nuclear family. There are families that say they're of God, and they're argumentative and mean husbands and fathers that you need to get away from as soon as you can. If they're breaking the law, you need to call the police. It's possible, I doubt this highly, it's possible there's someone here today that's got to call the police. You should be calling the police on that guy. So I'm not talking about that nonsense that happens. For the most part, the guy's trying to slug away and be a good Christian man. Don't run away from this. You're going to regret running away from this. And so even in difference, you do it with respect. I'm going to end with 2 stories that I want to give you at least quickly. I had a girl in Chicago that came up to me in youth group, and she said, she wasn't quite in youth group yet, but her brother was. Parents didn't come to church, but the girls came to church, and one guy, Dwayne Hawk's the only one I remember. Dwayne, I remember. The girls I don't remember. And she says, my dad always has me get some beer. And my dad gets drunk or buzzed. She didn't use the word buzzed. Drunk or buzzed every day, about every day. He drinks too much every day. And I don't want to give him this beer anymore. What do I do? And I'm a young, going to Moody. And I said, I don't know. No, I didn't say I don't know. I thought about it. I can't remember if I asked her if I could talk about it next week. I can't remember. But I think in my memory, I remembered right then what to say. I said, if I were you, have you ever talked to him about it? No, I didn't. What I would do is talk to him about it. And if I were you, respectfully, I wouldn't do it. Now, you got to do what you think is right, but here's what you would say, something like this. Dad, I love you, and I will obey you and do what you tell me to do, but I don't want to get you beer anymore because you drink too much. And you could do that. But I don't want to get it for you. I don't want to go get it for you. So I don't want to get it if it's just one beer. I don't want to start that. Let someone else do it. Let mom do it. I don't want to do it. That's all. And if you want to punish me, you can punish me, but I'm not. And now I told her to say, I don't want to. Then tell him I'm not going to. I'm not going to do it anymore. Do what you want. Could you imagine the low life that would punish that child? He's not. He's not. They exist. That man exists. But your dad, I said, I don't know what your dad's going to do. But you know what I said, what I told her? I'm thinking this, say words that I'll say him if he stood here. Did you say that? I sure did. Well, wait, what'd she tell you? I never heard back from it, And soon they were taken away from the church for another reason entirely. But say, I don't want to do that because I love you. I don't want to see you get drunk. You drink too much. I'll get you a soda. I'll get you an apple. But I don't want to get your beer, and I'm not going to get you a beer anymore. Do what you want. And then if he spanks you, don't hate him. Don't hate him. He's not gonna. The other girl was very interesting conversation, was at Jackson Christian School, high school. I can't remember what I talked about. I do think I shared her one time before. And I talked about whatever it was about your parents and respected them, whatever it was. And she came up to me and says, can I talk to you about it? Yeah, I got a few minutes. I think it was going to lunch. She missed probably half her lunch for this. She said, I'll tell you what it is. My parents would not let me see movies except G. I can't see anything but G. PG. I can't watch a cartoon, PG. They're all PG. Everything's PG. G is like, you got to go to 60s Disney to get, unless it's G, we don't watch it. All we watch is old Disney. It's all we watch. Do you have a good relationship with your parents? Are they good people or bad people? Oh, they're very good. Do you love your parents? I love them. They're very good people. Hardworking father, good people. I can't remember what she said on this one. Have you talked to them about this? I can't remember what she said, but that was an advice. What you could do is talk to them. Because she says, I don't mind not watching it, but I go to my friend's house and they're watching really something not bad and I can't do it and it's just uncomfortable and I kind of want to see it. It doesn't offend me. It's just one thing. It's like one thing in my home. So what I would do is talk to them. Secondly, what I would do is I would not disobey them on this. Now you're saying they don't ask you to do anything wrong. It's not wrong to not see any movie. Some might not watch any movie. It's not wrong. They are protecting you from other things. Maybe others are watching too many movies and wrong stuff. So you can't say it's wrong. You don't need it. If I were you, I would not do it behind their backs when you go to a friend's house. Let them know of the uncomfortable situation you're putting them in. I can't think of a movie now, but just some movie. I mean, she couldn't go to the Passion of the Christ. This is before Passion of the Christ. That's rated R, rightly so, only for violence. And a teenager, I would let my teenager see the Passion of the Christ, but she couldn't even go see that when that happened. I would talk to them about it. I would not disobey when you're behind their back. If it's uncomfortable for you, be uncomfortable. Then, if it's untenable, when you're 18, then you get out. You move out. Don't move out earlier if you can. And when you move out, don't say, I'm moving out because I'm going to watch whatever I want to watch on TV. Don't say that. Just happen to get an apartment. Get an apartment. And by the way, when I didn't go this far, but I would add this for you, then when you are a bride and you have a home, you make rules, Dad. I don't watch bad stuff, but it's going to be more than G sometimes. You can talk to me, but don't tell me. That's what we're doing. I honored and respected you, and I want them to respect me. And talk to me about this a certain way, and don't talk to me about it in front of my children. I'm just giving that to you. That needs to be cut off. Me and my husband, we do what we think is right. But I think that was good advice for her. She was a dear soul. She loved her parents. You have other problems? No, this is it, Pastor. It's really causing a problem for me. I'm fine, but it just puts me in a situation. All right, you're in a situation. Handle it the best way you can and continue to talk to your parents. Continue to talk. Don't disobey them It's a move in the wrong direction. Obey your parents in all things, unless they ask you to sin. Obey your parents in all things. To all that, is there an amen? Amen. Okay. God bless you. Believe me, if you're new to that, the world, submit, shoes off in the kitchen, making the pot roast, that's all, just give me babies. If that was true, which I don't know where that is, I don't know where that is on the planet. If that's true, that's wrong. We're not teaching that. We're not teaching that. You know who's in trouble? With any trouble home? The husband. Lead your family in the way they ought to go. I realize there's things you can't perfectly change. You got bad things and they're stuck in it. All right, but they're not going to change. Dad, this is the way I am. This is what I'm going to do. All right, here's how you're going to act in this home. And here's how you're going to do. And let's act respectfully one to another. And let's not just alienate each other. Okay? We've spoken. So you can get these adult problems with teenagers or kids, but boy, raise them in the way they ought to go. Lord, if there is today something where you have to say, I'm going to my 35th. We have issues, and we've had issues, and we'll have them again. But I get to go clean saying, I appreciate you. You are a remarkable wife. I am the most fortunate of men. Lord, if there is a thing where a husband is not loving his wife, that he'd go home and get that taken care of, or not leading her, or leading her in the wrong way. There may be a situation of a wife not treating her husband with honor, but antagonizing to him and even hateful towards him. Oh Lord, hear her as she goes to get that right. There may be a youth or a child. You can't tell me. I'll do what I want. I'll do it here, but when I get out, you can't tell me. It's wrong. Lord, where does their way lead? The world. Nothing but sin, decay, divorce, animosity, unless everybody agrees on the sin and just comes in on the sin and say the sin is fine, whatever it might be. But lifestyle's unchanged. Death, loss, sorrow, pain. What happens when we follow your way? That picture. It's a bumpy ride, but the picture of love, mutual love, respect, everybody looking out for everyone else, everyone helping everyone else, a kind, working, serious man that maintains even our fun and our good times, leading the way, a man we look up to, an admirable man, and a virtuous woman, and obedient children. Lord, with this you are blessed. To the man or to the woman in a bad situation, it's not them. A heinous father, as some of us have had, a wicked mother, a drunkenness and this and that. Oh Lord, help them in a unique way, in a very unique way, for they must stand in a different way and not go along and not contribute. Help those in dire circumstances. Lift them up as Christ came into a dire world. He knew how to navigate. They can learn how to navigate even wickedness. To the one who has wickedness, help them to use their finger to dial prayerfully 911. Because this is wrong and should not be tolerated. Bless our homes and thank you for the maps. We pray to Christ's name, amen.